So hello friends, this is the fifth chapter of the Docker series, and in this chapter we will discuss few key points. Like there are some mistakes which people usually make like while creating up the Docker image. So we will be discussing like why not to use Debian frontend is equal to non-interactive. So this is something which is highly recommended by Docker. It says that you should not use that statement. Why? We will discuss this. Then we will convert the shell form to executive form. So I have seen a lot of people having issues while having this conversion. So we have already discussed this that executive form is always the preferable form like than the shell form because it does not like involve the cell processing and hence it makes the script faster. Then we will be talking about the shrinking script. So while doing all of these things, we will make few changes in our Docker file in which we will add the maintainer work directory, and then we will discuss on the difference between CMD and entry point. And at last, like I will not give you the scenario. We do not have a scenario on build, but yes, I will just tell you what exactly this is for. So, and at the last, like what we will do is after creating up this file, we will run this file. This file has Apache and PHP. That will be our first container. So again, if I go back to my scenario, we had this scenario in which we were having a single host. In this single host, we will have two containers. So first container will have Apache 2 and PHP, and the entry point for first container will be the Apache server, that is port 80, right? And again, the second container will be on MySQL, and the entry point will be 3360. But in this chapter 5, we will make this particular container up and running professionally. We will make sure that our Docker script is written professionally, it is matured, it is performance like optimized, and then we will discuss some key areas on how you can uh, like manage the memory and CPU management of Docker containers. So there are few things like while running it, like while performing things on Docker by using the commands, like there are some day-to-day commands which have to be used frequently. So we will have a discussion on that. Then we will have a discussion on Docker network. Again, this will be a very short discussion and a very simple one. Like Docker manages everything by itself. All you need to give is just a command. Then there is something called as volume. So Docker volume. So we will discuss about that. So let's begin our chapter for today. So guys, at first let us start with the Docker file and we will make the Apache server up and running. So while doing up this task, we will be covering up these topics for today. So let's begin. So I'm just going ahead and opening up my Ubuntu machine. So this is my host machine. This is the Ubuntu machine on which we have Docker. And this is the desktop where we have the Docker file folder. And inside this folder, we have the Docker file. So this is the folder from where the context will begin. So I will just go ahead and open up the Docker file. So this is what we were doing last time. We were having a Docker file in which we were running an update. Then we were installing Apache 2 and then we were installing PHP. So like in the previous chapter, we used Debian frontend is equal to non-interactive. So this is something which is always said like not to be used. This is always recommended, like this thing should not be used. And why? So let us go ahead and at first remove this particular line from here, save it, and let me go back to my terminal. So this is the CMD, the terminal for Linux, and in this present working directory is this, but I need to go to the desktop because my file is in a folder called Docker file on desktop. So I'll just cd desktop and then cd Docker file to move to that particular folder. Let me clear it and say ls. So these are the files which are there in this folder. So we need to run this file, which is Docker file. So now I will just go ahead and build up this Docker file. So I will say sudo docker build dash t. T is for tagging or giving this Docker a name. So how we give a name? We say Apache, which is the name and like image, and then the tag. Tag is version 1. So before this colon, This part is the name and this part is the tag. So I will just show you up this in a while. So let us first build this and say dot, and I will just hit up enter. So the second part is being taken as cache. First step is done, second step is done, we are on the third step, that is installing Apache 2. So this is the line from where we have removed Debian frontend, like non-interactive. So what exactly Debian frontend not non-interactive do? So this is something which is like based out of Linux. So I will just go ahead, let this keep on running and we will discuss about this. So I will just go ahead and open up a screenshot. So if you see up my screen over here, there are few types of front end which can be used. So these are the few kind of front end which can be used. What is the meaning of Debian front end non-interactive? This actually means if there is any error, if there is any error which is being thrown up by the system, it just suppresses that error. It suppresses that error and it does not show it on the front end. And that's why, like, even if your application will be giving any error, it will not be shown on the front end. So if you are using Debian frontend is equal to non-interactive, you will never be able to find out that if your application is performing good or not. So it will not throw an error on the front end. Whatever error will be there on the back end, it will just suppress it and continue processing further. So this is what the default value of Debian frontend is. That is Debian frontend is equal to new t. So there are cases in which you cannot like proceed without using this Debian frontend is equal to non-interactive, and this is because like Docker works in a non-interactive mode. But if there is such a condition, then it is required for you to make Debian frontend non-interactive and make it interactive by saying Debian frontend is equal to new t as soon as your purpose is done. Because if you will keep the Debian frontend non-interactive, it will never throw an error on the front end, and you will never know how your application is performing. So this is always said that this particular is the thing like Debian frontend is equal to non-interactive should never be used. So in this particular case, we were like getting stuck at this area in which like the geographical area, it asks for geographical area, and even if we enter it, it does not like move forward. Docker does not move forward. It is because Docker works in a non-interactive mode. So what is the solution? So there are two solutions. So one solution is either we can make Debian frontend non-interactive, and after installing PHP, we can make it again interactive by saying Debian frontend is equal to new t. So this is something like which is said by Docker. Like second thing, which is more feasible and more realistic, is to define the default value as the geographic area. So if you see that we are getting stuck over here and this geographic area belongs to TZ data. So the system was configuring TZ data, and like while configuring it did not get the area. So we have to configure the default value of TZ data. So if we will do it, then it will pick it automatically and we will not have to give Debian frontend is equal to non-interactive, right? So how can we do it? So to do it, I have just written down few lines of code. So if you see out over here till this point, these three lines, let me copy these four lines for you and go back to my original file and let me paste it over here. So first thing like is the maintainer. So let us keep it separate from what we are discussing right now. It is like something not related to that, we will discuss later. So at first we need to create an environment variable. So environment variable are the same variables as we have in our host machine. So if we are using Windows, we go to system properties, then we go to environment variables. There we see the environment variables, right? So these variables are the same, but these are for the containers. So we are defining our environment variable, and here we give tz is equal to Asia dash slash Dubai. So this is the value which we pass. Now this particular thing, this particular data is picked from this location. This is the location from this particular data is picked up from etc time zone. So if we like make an entry of TZ data, Asia or Dubai, into this time zone, then it automatically knows that it has to pick up the time zone of Asia and Dubai. So it will pick up the time zone for this, which is the number 6. So even though we will not be making up the Debian front end non-interactive, we can make the Apache server work. So these are the 2 lines or 3 lines of code which makes this work. So what we are doing, we are just defining a variable tz and putting up the value, and then after putting up the value, we are echoing this value and placing this value in this file, which is there in etc, and the file name is time zone. So this arrow means put the data which is coming through this variable, which is tz variable. Variable value of variable tz is this, and just put it in this time zone. Now one point you have to see over here is like these 2 lines of code which we are talking about, like line 10 and 11, these 2 lines of code should always be in shell form. Why it should always be in shell form and not in executive form? So why is it so? Because this variable is shell variable. Environment variable always belongs to the shell, and that's why if we will not do this in shell form, so this is the shell form. We are saying please run the shell command. So this is the first parameter, and this is the second parameter which we are passing. This is the command, then first parameter and second parameter. So again, if we see over here, this is the shell variable. If we will not pass it like a shell variable and say something like this, echo and just something like this. So if this is the case, in this case, this particular variable value will not be fetched. So this will not be represented as Asia slash dash slash Dubai. Rather, it will pick it up as the same characters, which is $tz. So it just becomes characters, not a variable. And hence, like as we want shell to process this variable, so we are using up a shell form. So this is nothing but a shell form, right? So this is how, like, this is what we require to run this Apache correctly. So one more thing is, like, we have been running all these statement in a different line. So with run statement, let's say this is a command 1, we can say command 1 and command 2 and command 3, and similarly we can keep on going. We can keep on going. So what is the purpose? Like, while we put up these and together in one line, so a single temporary container is formed, all these commands are run, and then that temporary container is removed and like move passed on to the new image. But if we will mention all of them in a separate line, all of them will have a temporary container of themselves separately. So this is how we say shrinking. So I will just cut it and paste it. So it will run both of these command, and in the similar way I will just cut it and paste it, and let me delete it and save it. So now this should be executable, and this will not stop at this area. So whenever you are hung up in your terminal, what you need to do is you need to just press in Control and C. You will come out like this, then say clear, and again I will say sudo docker build and dash t apache version 2. This is version 2, right? Let me say an equal to, anyhow this equal to does not matter, and then say dot. So first line is good, second line is good, third line is good, fourth line is good, fifth line is good, and it is now running the 6th line. So I do not think like we will have any issue now with the container, and it should run in a good way. So if you see up on my screen, we are able to see that we have successfully built this image and we have no error while building up this image. So we have built up this image. It does not mean that it will successfully run Apache. So what I mean is we will just get clearer. So let us see what all images do we have in the system. We will just sudo, then docker, then images, and then just dash a and hit an enter. So these are the total images which we have in the system. This also involves the like intermediate images as well, because we are using a dash a. If we do not use dash a, we just use pseudo docker images. So we will be getting up only these images. So you can see over here that in dash t we gave the name while we were building up the image. So this is the name and this is the version, right? So this is what like we gave up like few minutes back, and this was like this image has this id. So let us go ahead and run this image. Let me show you, and let us run this. Use a sudo docker run and then the image name, which is apache, right? And with apache we have only one image, which is this. So we do not have to give the version. Anyhow, we can even give it like this and hit an enter. So as we hit the enter, we see an error. Even though we have installed Apache, we have installed PHP, but we are not able to run Apache. There is a reason behind that, and like what is the reason? What is the error? Is this? So $Apache run dir is not defined. It says this. So this is the error which we get while running up this image. So we have to define this variable. What exactly is this variable? This is the variable, environment variable, which is defined by Ubuntu. So if you pick up any other OS, you will have some other variables. So this is the way like Ubuntu links Apache or installs Apache on the operating system, and it maintains the directory, then it maintains the PID, then it maintains the log directory. So there are a lot of directories or a lot of environment variables which have to be given. So let me go back to my file. So if we see over here that we do not have any directory like setup, so I have already marked them in a different file for you. So like we are getting an error of Apache run dir if we just place this particular line. So this is what we are doing, right? So this will be setting up the environment variable for Apache. So if you see up the my line number 21, this is the same error. So this is the line which will set up this environment variable, which is Apache run directory. So let us go ahead and I will just copy this line and will paste at very end here. Let me paste it and save it. Let me build a new image out of this, and let me say it to be the version 3 and hit an enter. So this has been successfully created, and why it like got created so fast? Because it was using up the cache. So now I will go ahead and run it. So this is version 3 and hit an enter. So you say that it says Apache run directory is not set. So we have set up Apache run user. Let me set up Apache run directory, which is this. So first let me create it. Let me copy it. Let me create it. Let me create a directory and then Apache run dir. Let me paste it. I have pasted it, right? So why I am pasting it at the end of the line? Because I want to use the cache for all these commands. I do not want to run them again and again. So that's why I'm adding them to the end. So now let me go back and build version 4. Hit an enter. Version 4 is built. Let me clear it and run version 4. Okay, 4 is already built. clear it and then run it. We are running it. Okay, so this is the command and say enter. Now as we hit enter, Apache run directory is not the error. Now the error has changed to something else. We say the Apache PID file is not set, Apache run group is not set, Apache log directory is not set. So these all are the environment variables which are being used by Apache. We have to set all of them. So I have just marked them. These things belong to Apache, and I will just go ahead and paste it. So these are the all of the things: Apache PID file, Apache run directory, Apache log directory, Apache log directory. So all of these things: log directory, Apache run group, then we have PID file. So these are the errors and these are the variables which are required by Apache if we are running it on Ubuntu. So let me save it. I have just saved it, and let me build up a file with version 5 and hit an enter. Okay, so this particular build is also been created. You can see, right? Let me clear it and run this file now, which is fifth one, and hit an enter. So now if you see, it gives me an error, could not reliably determine the server's full qualified domain name using this particular IP address. So this is the IP address of this container, but if you take a look, our prompt, this is our prompt, right? Our prompt, it's stuck at one position and we are not able to see the something like this to enter up a new command. It is, the terminal is stuck, and this is what we call as attached mode. This is attached mode. Now if I go ahead and open up my browser and say 172.17.0.2, which is the IP address of this container which we have just run, right? So just enter this and hit an enter. So it says that Apache to Ubuntu default page, because this container is running Apache now and Apache is running good. In the similar way, we have added PHP, right? And we have a file which is info.php. So if we open up this file has a command which is php info, which is a default command for PHP. So now if we see the Docker file, we are moving up this particular info file to var www or html. So this is the location, default location, the first pickup location for Apache server, and we are moving up this info file to this location, right? So in this case, if I just go ahead and after this, if I type in info.php and hit an enter, so it will pick up this page which is for PHP information, which is being created by this function which is PHP info, and that's why we are able to see up this information page for PHP, which is PHP version, system, everything is given for about PHP in this page, and which tells us that PHP and Apache have been successfully installed on this system. So in the next part of this chapter, which is chapter 5, we will be discussing on like shifting our file from like shell form to executive form. As of now, these commands are shell form and not so efficient performance wise, so we will be shifting up these commands to executive form, and then we will be running up our Docker container again. So now let us go ahead and discuss on these three statements which we use in Docker file, and then we will convert our Docker file to executive form. So let me go back to my Linux host for Docker, and this is the file which we were running as of now. So all the information which is given below, let us move it down, and Let us move this also down. This is required in shell form, which we already know. This is required in shell form, and we will be converting this line into executive form. And let us start with something which is maintainer. So maintainer is a statement which is given in Docker file which says that this particular image is being maintained by this company. So you can have any kind of string which contains special characters, anything. This is just the name which has been given to the maintainer of the image, nothing else. Then next we have the command for CMD and entry point. So let me go back over here. One thing which we are missing is work directory. What exactly is work directory? So if I press C and come back, and if I say PWD and hit an enter. So for my this particular Linux operating system, PWD stands for present working directory. And as we are currently in this directory, hence it says that this is our present working directory. In the similar way, in this Docker file, this particular work directory depicts the present working directory. When we say that the software is running inside a container, what is the present working directory? Where is it exactly working? In which folder it is in? So this particular statement defines where it is in. So we can just say work dir and just let me say it to be this location. So let me cut it and let me paste it over here. So this will be our present working directory. But if we will paste it over here, next time we will be building up the file, it will not use the cache for these statements. Anyhow, we do not want that. So this is the meaning of work directory. The next thing is CMD and entry point. Now which one to use and what is the difference between both of them? CMD and entry point. So here we just give the command. Here we do not give arguments. So this is majorly the difference between entry point and CMD. What exactly is entry point or CMD? If I go back and open up my image, which is looks something like this. So we just now created up an image for Apache server. We created an image for Apache web server, right? So this Apache web server interacts on port 80. Now we all know that containers are closed packet of your application. So no one from the outside world can go and see the data which is there inside a container. No one can talk to it, no one can do anything to a container. The container works independently, isolated in its own environment. It does not have any link even with the operating system, right? But if we have the application in the container, then how will the outside world interact with the container? So hence there is always one and only one entry point for any container. This is the entry point. This entry point is always defined by a port or a service. So Apache is a service. This is a service and which runs on port 80. So we will say that we will expose port 80 and make this to be the entry point. So whatever runs Apache will be the entry point. So anyone from the outside world cannot talk to any process, any system running inside the container other than Apache. This is what it means, and this is what is being defined by these two statements, which is CMD and entry point. So if you remember in the very, like in the third chapter, I guess we discussed that CMD can be only one in a file. If we write it multiple times, only the last one is picked, and like it overrides all the previous CMDs. In a similar way, if we have both the entry point and CMD, it does not make any sense. So why like the Docker people has given these two statements separately. So you will get to know about it in a second. So in this statement where we just executed a file in which we were running Apache and PHP does not require to interact from the outside world. PHP just needs to be inside the container, right? The only software which requires connection with the outside world is Apache. That's why we are making Apache to be the entry point. So we say expose 80, so port 80 is exposed, and then we say, let's forget about entry point for now. Then we say command, this particular software, which is Apache, which is in user has been Apache, let this interact with the outside world. And then we also say, please make this attachment a foreground process inside this container. This particular container can run in background, but inside this container, make this process Apache as a foreground process. So if you see, these are the arguments which are passed while running up Apache. This does not belong to Docker. This is the arguments, this is the command which is required, these are the two arguments which are being passed. This same command we can write it in another way, and we can say it as this: entry point. And this entry point, we can just say this over here and just give the options. So if we give entry point just takes the commands. It does not take the parameters. If we want to add the parameters, so this is the actual use of CMD. CMD is a command which adds parameter to the entry point. Although we can completely neglect this entry point by adding this particular thing at the very first of CMD, but this particular statement should have been written this way. This is the correct way of writing of this statement. So this is the table which has been given up by Docker. So it says that if we do not have an entry point, we do not have a command CMD statement, this is not allowed. It means every container should have one and only one entry point. So it will have one entry point. It cannot have more than, it cannot have less than one. It should have one entry point. Now, what if both CMD and entry point statements are present? How will the system take? So there are two parts for any entry point. One is the command. I will just say C. And second is the options or the arguments which is given to this command. If both entry point and CMD are present, command is always picked up from entry point. If both of them are present, options are always consolidated together and put up together. This is the table. Let's assume we do not have any CMD command, we just have the entry point. So if we have the entry point, it will just like mark the entry point. In the similar way, if we do not have entry point, it will just execute the CMD statement as it is. If we have both, these are few values in which we have both, right? If we have both entry point and CMD, so both have executable. This has executable, this has executable. So which executable will run? The executable which is there in entry point. You can see exec underscore entry, because entry point is always given precedence for command and parameters are always combined together. So if you see, it has a parameter, both the parameters will be there. All the three parameters are there. but the executive is from entry. The executive is from entry. The executive can only be from command if entry point is not there. So the purpose of actually the CMD statement is to provide additional parameters. This is why CMD command is used for, but this can be used in a different way, like in which we can totally neglect the entry point statement and just write the CMD statement. So guys, let us now quickly convert our script to executive from shell form wherever it is possible. So to do that, let me go back to my Linux host on which we have installed Docker, and this is my Docker file. So this is the statement which was like installing Apache and PHP both for me. Let me at first like put it on different lines. So this is one command, then this is another command, and let this be another command, and let this be another command. So let me copy this and paste this, again paste this. So you can see from line number 15 till 19, we have 5 statements. So we have to convert these 5 statements from shell form to executive form. So line 15 till 19 is in shell form, and line 23 and till 27 is in executive form of the same commands. So how we convert into shell form is like, first this is the software which is actually running. So this is what the command is. This says apt-get software, and this is apt-get please update. The second says apt-get please install. What do I install? Apache 2. In what form? In a non-interactive form, which is -y. So again, if you see over here, what you need to do is you need to put up the command in the first comma. Again, the executive form starts up with a square braces and ends with a square braces, and in between we have commands in double quotes separated by commas. So apt-get in one double comma, then update in second double comma. In the similar way, you can see that all the words over here will be depicted in different double quotes separated by comma. So it says run apt-get. In apt-get, we are running install, and what we are installing? We are installing Apache 2 with -y option. So this is how like we write up the executive form. So when I started up writing up the executive form, I used something like this at first: install -y and then Apache. So this will not work. All of them should be in a different. All of them should be in a different double quotes. So now I will shrink the script. So to shrink the script in executive form, we will not use these AND statements directly. So this will not work in an efficient way. Like as we can see, we will like collaborate them as per the functionality. So this is the command. It says update. This is the command. It says install. So for all these install, we will combine them. How? I will just cut this and I will paste it over here after a comma. Again I will cut this and I will paste it here. Again I will cut this. So these 3 lines are not required, and I will just go ahead and paste this. Let me also delete this, is also not required because we converted it into a executive form. So at first it will update the repository, and then it will install all of these commands in a non-interactive mode. First Apache, then PHP, then library for PHP, then MySQL. I have just saved up this file. Let me go back to my terminal and let me clear it. So to build this, I will just give sudo docker build -t new Apache and version 1, and let us give a dot. So this is my command, and let me just give an enter. So you can see that it has successfully built. Why it has built so quickly? Because I'm using of the cache. I had already built up before this training, and like now I'm just trying this in front of you. So now I will say sudo docker run and then new Apache, and the version was version 1. Version was version 1, new Apache version 1, V1, and let me hit an enter. So as I hit an enter, I again get this error. You will see how I can remove up this warning. This is not an error, this is actually a warning. But again, the IP address is 172.17.02. So if I go back to my browser, let me open up a private window and just say 172.17.0.2. So again, this is working. In executive form, this is working. Info.php and hit an enter. PHP is also working. So just before we go ahead and talk about Docker networking, volume, or else the Docker commands which we run on CLI or the terminal, this is the last thing which I want you to understand for Docker file, which is on build. So it has two steps. First, we will create an image in which we will be using the on build, and in the second image, we will be using the first image as the base image, and we will understand the purpose of on build. So let me jump back to my Ubuntu machine, my host machine. So this is the Docker file which I have written. This has only two statements. First, it is from Ubuntu latest base image, and second, there is an on build command which says run apt-get update, nothing else. So let us go ahead and run it, build it first. So I will just say build. I will give this to be the name as on build image version 1 and a dot, and just hit enter. So we see that the image has been built successfully. So to list the image, I will say sudo docker images. So we will be having this image at very top. You can see over here, this is the image which we are talking about. Now from this image, which is on build image, I will copy of this name. Let us create another image which is on build image, and version was v1, right? Version was v1 and on build image. So we are creating this image from on build, and let us not give any line to it, and just I am just saving it. And let me go back to my terminal and at first clear things, and now let me build it and say version 2 and hit an enter. So as I hit an enter, you see that it has started updating the apt-get repository. So the command which we gave up on the first file, at first we were having this image. This was the on build command. So this was the first image which we created, version 1. And now this image, when we create another image from this image which is version 2, when we create version 2 from version 1, it executed the command which was given as on build in first image. So on build is something which says if this particular image is used as a base image for second image, then at first all the commands which have been written in on build should be executed first. This is a simple meaning of on build. Now why it is required? So there are cases when like you have an application which behaves as a container. So if you have something like that, you will need the application files of the person who is using up your container. So you can use up an on build command to copy the files from one location inside your container, or maybe to install a third party jar file if there is a requirement. So there can be a lot of possibilities, but again the purpose of on build is like this command does not run in the image itself. Any command which is given in on build will run in the next image, for which image 1 is the base image. So the next thing which we will be studying today will be the Docker commands. So if you see over at my screen, these two parts, which are Docker attach, detach, and memory and CPU management of Docker containers, are actually managed by Docker run. So this is the most important command for looking for Docker. But in addition, we will also be studying these commands which are inspect, start, stop, push, pull. These commands are used very frequently. So to understand them, let me jump back to my Linux host where we have the Docker, and currently I am on desktop and Docker file. So let me say sudo docker images and hit an enter. So as of now we have these two complete images, which is my Apache and second is Ubuntu. This was the base image for my Apache, and this image has two things. One is Apache and second is PHP, and this is the version 1. Let me show you the containers. Sudo docker ps-a. So this ps is the command for containers. Just hit and enter. So we do not have any containers as of now. We just have a single image, which is my Apache. So now let us understand the difference between attach and detach. So for this, I will go ahead and create a container. It means that I will run an image and say my Apache, and let me give it v1 and just hit an enter. So this is a container which has been started. But if you see that our prompt is like hung up over here and we cannot see any statement like this. This is because this is the attached mode. Attached mode means that the container will be binded with the terminal and you cannot do anything on the terminal unless the container is stopped. So if I go back to my Firefox, let me close all of them and open up an private window. So now if I type in 172.17.0.2 and hit an enter, I will be seeing up the Apache server. But if I just press Control C, I will be prompted back to my terminal. You can see over here, and let me clear it and let me show you the images. Container, sorry. So we do not have any running container now. So I will just go back, and if I open up a new private window so that we do not use the cache, and just say 172.17.0.2 and hit an enter. So it was using up the cache. Now you can see if I hit an enter over here, it will say unable to connect because this particular container has been stopped. I will just say dash a after sudo docker ps. It shows me all the container, not only the running instances. So we have a single container which has the ID this, and like which was exited 2 minutes back. Now, what if we want to run a container in a background? We do not want to attach it with the terminal, and like hence we want to run three containers, four containers out of the same image. So how we will do it? I will just say sudo docker run, and I will say dash d, and I will give it a name, and I will name it container one, and let me build it using my Apache image which has the version 1, and let hit me enter. So now if you can see that our terminal is not blocked. This D means please put this container in a detached mode. And now if I say sudo docker ps, so I will see up this container, and you can see that this container is working on port 80. But how can we find the IP address of this container? So this was all about attach and detach. Now we will discuss about docker inspect. The docker inspect is the command which gives you all the information about the container. So I will just say sudo docker inspect, and the container ID name. Control C, sudo, I will just copy it, sudo docker inspect space and the container ID, and I will just hit and enter. So you can see over here that we get all the details about this container. So we have this container running, and this container has a name of uh, container 1. So this container has a name of container 1, and this has an IP address. So we can find the IP address in this section. You can see over here, this is a section in which we can find the IP address, and the IP address of this particular container is 172.17.02. This is the IP address of this container. So you can see that you will be getting all the information. So we have exposed port 80. You can see that this has this information. Then we have set up these all environment variables. You can see in environment. Then we do not have any volume. The image name is this. This container has been built up by this image. It does not have any entry point, but it has a CMD. You can see it has a CMD which has been used. Now we can see all the other details about this container. So this has an ID. You can see the ID over here. Now if I go ahead and say sudo docker ps, I will be able to see up this container, and the name of the container is container 1. Now let me go ahead and run another container. One container is already running on 172.17.0.2. Now let me go ahead and run another container and give this the name to be container 2, and I am running this from the same image and hit an enter. Now I will say sudo, let me clear this first. Now say sudo docker ps. So now we have two images running. Simon, so this particular host, one host has two containers. One image has two containers. This one and this one both are the same, but they are running in a different containers. Both the images. Now this image like this started 10 seconds ago. So let me copy it. Let me say copy and let me inspect it. Sudo docker inspect, and then I will just paste it and hit an enter. Now you see that this has an IP address of 172.17.0.3, right? So let me go ahead and create another container. I am creating the third container now from the same image. I am hitting an enter. Now again I will just clear it and say sudo docker ps. So now we have three containers running. This was around 8 seconds ago. So let me copy this container and say sudo docker inspect and the container name, hit an enter. This has an IP address of 172.17.0.4. So now we have three containers running. One has IP address of 172.17.0.2. The second has an IP address of 117.0.3. See, all of them are running, and the last one has 4. And all of them has a page which is info.php. This will run on 04, this will run on 03, and this will run on 02. This will run on every one of them. Let me copy it. Let me open a new private window and let me close it. So what if we want to stop these containers? So I will just clear them and say sudo docker. Yes, these are the containers. So I'll just say sudo docker stop, and I will just give the name. This container will be stopped. In the similar way, I can stop this, copy and paste. This container will be stopped now. In the similar fashion, I will be stopping up the third container, which is this. Paste, hit enter. Now if I do, let me clear it first. And if I do sudo docker ps, it will not show me any containers because this shows only the running containers. I will have to give dash a to list all the 4 containers which we have created as of now. But if I go back to my browser and say 172.17.0.2 and hit an enter with info.php, so it will not run it because the container is not running. So this particular page Apache 2 was picked up due to like the uh, problem which like the caching which happens in Chrome. So if you do not want this to happen, let me just delete them and go to uh, preferences and find in history, clear history. So I will say everything and say OK. Let me close it. And now if I take 172.17.0.2 and hit an enter, it will not show me anything. You see, here this is just running. This will not show me anything because I have deleted all the cache. So that's why this will not be running, right? Because all the containers are stopped. But if I say sudo docker start and I will just copy it and let me paste it. So I will just say sudo docker inspect and again give this name and hit an enter. So this is an IP address of this. So the IP address are assigned as the containers are in runnable state. Now if I do this, I will see this page and also info.php. I will also see up this page because this container is now running. Let me clear this. So there is something also called as push and pull. In the similar way, we can push the image to the Docker Hub and we can pull the image from the Docker Hub. So now let us talk about CPU and memory management of containers. So while we run the containers, we say Docker run, and while we run it, we manage CPU and memory. So the host can be having like 8 GB of RAM, 16 GB of RAM, and like it can have a quad core processor or a dual core processor or pen or i5, i7. So it can have AMD, different kind of CPUs, right? So also, the host can have multiple containers. So how can we decide what container can have the maximum of how much CPU, the maximum of how much memory? So this is something which is defined while we run up a container. Let us see. So I will just say sudo docker images. So these are the images, and if it is sudo docker ps, this is the running container. So I will just go ahead and run another container out of it. Let me clear it and say sudo docker run. Image name is my apache and the version is v1. So I am just running up this container, and before running up this container, let us see the help of run. So if you see, after this run, we can add various options such as dash D, which was for detach. We just studied this. So in the similar way, we have few other uh, options for memory. So how we can say that the maximum memory this container RAM, the maximum RAM this container can take is 2 GB, or the maximum amount of hard disk this container can take is 5 GB. So this is done using dash M. So you can see which is decides the memory limits. So in the similar way, we decide the CPU, and CPU is decided up by dash C. You can see over here which is CPU. So number of CPU is decided up by this CPUs. Then we say decimal. So how we do it? So while running up the container, I can just say, let me clear it and say sudo docker run. And before giving the name of the container, I will just say C and say 2 equal to 2. And let me run the container, which is my Apache v1, and hit an enter. So this means the maximum number of CPU this particular container can take is 2. So anyhow, I will not be going very deep into it, but like I wanted you to understand that you can manage the memory and CPU using the Docker run command. It has the options. You can see the options. You can like change them anyhow you want. Like while running up the container, you need to decide how much hardware resources it has to take. So just before we close up this thing, I will like to show you that this particular error which we are getting for server qualified domain name. So there is a file in Apache configuration file. People say that there we need to write up the server name, but that is the wrong mechanism or wrong way of doing this. So it says that it does not find the fully qualified domain name. It just means that we do not need to set up this name. It is showing up this name because Apache cannot find it. So the actual error over here is, let me show it to you. I can just say docker run sudo docker run dash h. H is for host, and I will say host dash tune perform.com, and now I will say my Apache say v1 and let me run it. So now you see that we are not getting this error and the prompt has stopped because of the attached mode, right? That's why it has stopped, but it has not given that it did not qualify, like server qualified name was not found because we have given up the host name. So now the Docker container has its host name. That's why it is not giving us the error. So again, there are few things which you need to understand, like how exactly Docker interact with the software and where exactly the error can be. So this error could have been like removed if you go inside the container and there in the Apache folder in the configuration file you just add this server name. This error will be gone. But that is not the right way. If you add it this way, other applications which will be running on the Apache server will have issues. This server name is actually picked up by this tag. So this is how like the working of Docker is, and if you understand the working of Docker is, you will be able to do the work on Docker professionally. So friends, let us now understand few things about Docker networking. So in our case, our host machine is the Linux machine, right? And in this Linux machine, we have Docker installed, and here we are running up the containers. So we have an image, which the image name is my Apache, right? So I'm just typing in my A for now. So my Apache is the image name, and using this image, we have been creating containers. So whenever a container stops, it like the Docker takes back the IP address from that container. So the IP address is assigned to a container only when it is running. So how exactly the IP address is assigned? So this is the default network which is being created by the host machine. So this is the gateway and like the reserved IP address. Whenever you start the first container, it will be assigned with an IP address of 172.17.02. When you will start the second container and the first container is already running, the second container will be given the IP address of this. If these two are already running, the third IP address will be this. And similarly, as you keep on adding in the containers, the Docker will add the IP address one by one for each one of them. Now, this was about the default Docker networking. Now, when you say that there is a container inside a host, like and you want to refer to that container using MySQL. Say you have one container which is for Apache, you have second container which is for SQL, right? And in this container you are referring to this container. If you refer this using the IP address, say you are connecting it using this IP address, say 172.17.0.2 in this case. So if you stop and rerun the container, there might be a chance that this IP address gets changed, right? And that's why instead of writing up the IP address in the container, we write the container name. So there is a DNS, that is the domain name server, which is maintained by the Docker itself. And in like by using this, you can like directly refer the container by the container name rather than the container IP, because it might get changed, right? So this is the purpose of this server, DNS server, and this DNS server of Docker runs on this IP address 127.0.0.11. Now in like this was a very brief and very basic terms which we use in networking in Docker, but irrespective of this, there are three kinds of network, which is bridge network, none network, and host network. So what is the meaning of that? Let us see it. So this is my host, which is Ubuntu. I am just clearing this up. Let us see sudo docker images. So we have these images, and let us see sudo docker ps. So we have this particular container which is already running. So if you want to see the IP address of this container, I will just copy it and say sudo docker inspect, and I will just paste it, hit an enter. So you can see only one is running. That's why the IP address is 172.17.0.2. Now what I will do is I will just clear this up and I will say sudo docker run dash dash name equal to container, say I will say 2, and then dash d and then dash p 80. So and then my Apache version B. So this is the image name. We are saying please map the port 80 of the container to the port 80 of the host. So any request which will be coming to port 80 of the host will be like move forward to the container on port 80. So I will just hit enter. So this is good. The container is started on port 80. So here now, rather than writing up the IP address of the container, I will just say local host and hit an enter. So we see this page, and on localhost, if we say info.php, so we also see this page, because the localhost, this Ubuntu system is mapped to the container which is running inside this Ubuntu system. This is what is meant by the bridge mode. So this was nothing but the bridge mode which we just like discussed about. So the next mode is the none mode. So none mode is a mode in which the container is not assigned any IP address and it cannot communicate with the outer world at all. If you just want the container to be kept at any place, then you can do this. And how exactly we do this? I will just sudo docker run dash dash network equal to none, and then my Apache version 1. Just hit and enter. So now this particular container is running in none mode and it does not have any IP address. Let me show it to you. Let me clear this and let me run this in a detached mode, right? So now sudo docker ps. So this is the latest one, which is 5 seconds ago. Let me copy it and say sudo docker and then I will say just inspect and the address id. So you can see over here that it does not have any IP address. No IP address has been assigned to this particular image. This is because we have selected network to be none. And the last one is network host. Now what exactly host means? So let me at first stop all the containers. So sudo docker ps sudo docker stop copy paste. Similarly, I will be stopping up all other two paste, and the last one will be this paste. So I have stopped all the containers. Let me remove them. So to remove them, we have a command rm, and this will remove all the containers. And let me clear this. So now we do not have any containers. So I am just creating up a new container with the type network type host. So we will say sudo run sudo docker run dash dash network equal to my host, and then we will give name to this network container, which is container 1. Then we will run it in detached mode, my apache version 1. So this is what it is, and like I will hit an enter. So you can see that we have run a docker, and but we have not mapped it. We have not mapped this particular container with the host machine using dash p option, but we have changed the network type to host. So what exactly network type host means? It means if a particular container is running on a host, which is this, and this container is listening on port 80, so we do not need to map it with this host saying dash p and then 80 colon 80. So this is not required. Rather, this particular host means that this container is automatically mapped to the host machine. If the host machine has IP address, say a.b.c.d, then on this IP, this particular port will listen. So this particular port is already mapped to the host. This is what it means. So I will just go back and like I will just say sudo docker ps. So you can see that one is already running, and you can see that it does not have any like ports which has been mentioned out here. But if I go ahead and copy this and run it, then localhost will run itself again. So let me go to the options, preferences, and history. Let me delete all the history, all the cache, everything. Open a new incognito tab and let me run this local host. We are able to run it, right? Info.php. We are able to run it. Why? Because this is the third type of network, which is the host network. So this brings the networking part to the end. So before we just go ahead and close the chapter for today, the last part which we will be studying or covering today will be the need of volumes. So why exactly we require volume? So say that we have created up an image in Docker, and this image is being distributed to three different clients. So this image which we have made is on Apache, and all these three clients have like added up their applications on this image, right? So now they are running up a container, and this container has its own local storage. So whenever a person like runs a website which is hosted up on this container, he might register. So this client belongs to us, but they have their own client, right? They have their own client who work on their system. So they can register, they can like create a ticket, there can be a lot of stuff which will create data in this container. In the similar way, data will be created up in this container, and data will be created up in this container. So whenever we say that a container is running and the data is being continuously created in these containers, these data are not changed this image, are not changed in this image. This image remains the same. And this is how this is distributable, right? So these data get stored only in these containers. But what if we delete these containers? So this data will also get deleted, right? And this makes, like, this is not the efficient way of using the containers. Like, why exactly the containers are used? Containers are used so that we can start them and delete them anywhere. If you want to start a service, we will just start the container. If you want to delete the service, we will just delete it. So this saves our resources, right? But how we can make sure that this local storage data is not stored, not deleted? So what we will do is we will mount this local storage to another storage on the host machine. So this is a volume. So in our case, we have installed Docker on Linux, right? On Ubuntu. So on Ubuntu, on this location, Docker creates up the volumes. So volume is a separate entity as compared to container or image. So we will just mount it. So whatever location we want to mount, we can just mount it. How we mount it, that's a different thing. We will cover it in the next chapter, while we will be creating up the file for MySQL. So we mount it, and even if now we delete this container, the files of this container remain saved in a volume. And this is how we efficiently use the container service, the containerized service. We can go ahead and delete them, and like we just need to mount it and we get our data in the application, right? So in a similar way, like we can have different volumes for different clients, and they can mount their storage, local storage, into this volume, and even if they will remove the container, the data remains like available. So this is the reason why volumes are required majorly. Second, the volumes can be used for sharing data between different containers. Anyhow, that is not a real life scenario. Like if you have containers within the single host, you can do this, but this is not used. Anyways, so this brings today's chapter to the close, and in the next chapter we will be majorly studying on installing MySQL server on container, and like then we will be creating up a Docker Compose file. Thank you guys, have a great day.